So let's start off with a question. What did your parents, this is from discussion question number 1 of the video. You were supposed to wrap up on your own last night, the last section, section 8. What did your parents teach you about money? So discussion question number 1. What did your parents teach you about money? Pretty much just tackle that first question there. And then the next thing we're going to do, I want you to describe what I call a money moment in your life. So let me give you an example. When I was, about 12, my mom grew up on a farm, so Grandpa Harvey and Grandma Evelyn lived on about a 150-acre farm, and it was time to bale hay. And so I went out and worked all day baling hay, had fun, throwing it into the barn, up into the loft, the whole 9 yards. And then the next day, after we were getting ready to leave, Grandpa Harvey came up and handed me a $20 bill. And I wasn't expecting it all. They were not rich. They were probably just skating by in terms of cash. So $20 was a decent amount of money for him and a decent amount of money for me. But it really, I worked my tail off, but again, I was kind of having fun and didn't really expect it. But obviously he appreciated the work and wanted to do that for me. So that was an example of my money moment. So I kind of want you guys to think back in your lives. When have you had somebody do something, maybe it was an interaction, maybe it was something else, maybe it was something you did for somebody else, but some sort of money moment. So something that involves some money, some amount of money. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be small, but think about a money moment. For a volunteer that wants to share their money moment that came to mind. You want to share their work? Yeah.
Back in middle school, I used to sell chips and candy.
Okay. What grade?
7th grade.
Okay.
But I used to do it together to make it $5.
Okay, you bundle them up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are this one.
So the reason I was kind of got excited when you said that is I went to my high school graduation get together and their high school, what am I trying to say, reunion after 15 years or something. And Amber came up to me and she said, I remember you as the gum man back in 6th grade or something. And I didn't even remember this, but I would buy packs of Hubba Bubba, that big, bubble gum, and I would take out the package and sell them individually for a quarter or something like that. And so I had my little side business in 5th or 6th grade. I can't remember what grade it was, but I didn't even remember that time. So, all right, good. Anybody else want to share? So kind of fun to think back, and the importance with this class is that this stuff is wide-reaching. Our money shows our value systems, right? And so we want to think about that stuff as we interact with people. Of course, money is not the most important thing in life, but my Uncle Sam, who turned out to be a pathological liar, by the way, so I'm not sure how to handle his stuff, but I still like his quote. My Uncle Sam said, Russ, as he told me to get him a whiskey coke, money's not the most important thing, and he was pretty rich too, or at least he seemed to be rich until we learned about his lying. But sorry, I don't mean to have to go down a big rabbit hole with this, but he said, Russ, money's not the most important thing in life, right? But it's right up there in the top 5. And so that always kind of stuck with me. We got other things in life that are more important. But since money is used with all of our relationships and interactions, it certainly is right up there, as Uncle Sam used to say. So, all right, so let's do Tatum and college courses here. Tatum is majoring in marketing and advertising. She has been very excited about her studies lately. Not been very excited about her studies lately, and is thinking about switching over to nursing. Her income from a nurse will not be as much as what a good advertising firm would pay, not to mention the glamour of working on a big account. Tatum does not want to lose the 2 years of classes she has already put into college, but she would essentially have to in order to go into nursing. So should Tatum stick with her current major and try out the first, why or not, why not, or should she go into nursing? Don't write this one down. me a number between 3 and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Abby, what do you think? Should take them stick with the current major, try out the job or whatever, since she's that far into it, or switch to nursing?
I think you should probably stick with the current major and see how she get more interested in it and focuses on it.
Okay, so not to lose, basically not to lose what she's got
Yeah.
invested into it. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hannah.
I think you should stick with the major because although in a long run she'll make more money, I feel like she won't really be satisfied with it, so you really
Okay, so I think, unless I misheard you, I thought you said to keep it, but you're saying to switch to nursing? What are you saying? Stick with the long run, more income was with the advertising, with the business thing that she's trying or whatever.
switch to the one that she's most excited.
Okay, switch to the one she's most excited, which is the nursing, it sounds like. So forget about the last 2 years of school. If it takes you a little longer, so be it. It's more important to be passionate about what you're doing. Okay, so we got kind of 2 people on different sides of the fence. So I usually have kind of a split class on this one. Anybody else? What do you think? Raven?
She could do nursing, but also do more people.
I wouldn't totally advise that. So finding a blend, I think Abby was kind of hinting at that too, or maybe one's a hobby, one's not. I think when it comes to your career, you really want to specialize in what you're good at. And these 2 things are really far apart from each other, right? We're talking nursing versus advertising. It'd be a bit of a stretch, and I think staying focused on one or the other would probably be the better path. I know as college students, we like to find harmony and let's make amends and kind of meet in the middle, but sometimes meet in the middle stinks. And it might not stink here. There might be something. I'm just not seeing it be a realistic solution. So Taylor, let's go to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she should change her major.
So they should change, and why is that?
Because if she's not happy doing the advertising, then she's not going to want to do it, and she's going to change it anyways. So she might as well just change it now.
Okay, so what does this thing say? She says she doesn't want to lose the 2 years of classes. It doesn't exactly say how much additional time she might need, but let's say it's at least a year. What is a year worth of nursing going to run in terms of cost? Just take a guess. I mean, you guys are here in college. You know roughly what a year of college costs.
60K.
60K. Probably on the high side. We wouldn't want to include housing and stuff because you're going to have to live somewhere, right? So it would just be really the additional tuition, and maybe, of course, depending on the school you go to, it could be high, but probably 60 is a little high. What's our tuition here in Ottawa per year? For one full year, roughly. So without your discounts and stuff, the scholarships and stuff. 40. So, and that includes some housing though. It's actually, the tuition again is 29. So we gotta be careful not to throw in housing. So let's just call it 30 grand. 30 grand, is it, is 30 grand, sounds like a lot of money, certainly as a 20-something Tatum is here, but in the grand scheme of things, is 30 grand a lot? If she's making 50 grand a year as a nurse, maybe she's making 60 or 70 as an advertising, whatever they're dreaming up with this case, but she could be making more as a nurse, I think is realistic in today's world, but 50 grand a year, how long is she gonna work? Let's say she works 10 years, just to keep the numbers easy. 10 years at 50 grand is how much? No, I'm asking you to do math here early in the morning. How much, Caleb? $500,000. So 20 years would be $1 million. 30 years would be 1.5, 40 years, a lot of money. So in the grand scheme of things, would you rather be at something you love and you're passionate about and do it and work doesn't feel like work? I'm blessed that that's me. I get to come tell you guys about personal finance and economics and that's gonna be, that's just part of it, it's woven into my family, right? So you guys need to find your thing if you can. Not everybody's able to find that perfect thing, and then you've got other things that you might be able to weave in. But ideally, having something you're passionate about is gonna make the money a lot easier. And what we're learning in this class is if she can do nursing at 50 and advertising at 80, can she still become a millionaire and live comfortably? Yes, and she's gonna live a lot more comfortably if she doesn't hate her job every time she goes to work. Think of how much time is spent at work. Now, so I think the one thing she'd have to be careful about though, give Tatum a warning. Let's say we're leaning towards, know where your passion is, Tatum. You know, I just kind of that whole spiel I just gave. But what does she have to be really careful of here? If that's the advice we're giving her. Not change it again. Yeah, so has she really researched nursing? Or is this just oh, I think I want to become a nurse, right? So has she really done the research that she should in terms of what does it mean to be a nurse? What is my daily routine going to look like? What am I going to be doing? Am I going to have to put needles in somebody? And I hate needles. Dealing with poop and pee is another big thing for nurses. That's kind of gross. And I have my sister-in-law's a nurse. So has she really thought about all of what it means to be a nurse? If she has, and she's still passionate about it, then yeah, I would say definitely make that switch. So one of the things that we teach in economics class is called a sunk cost. In fact, I think Justin's going to talk about some of those fallacies. I'm not sure if he's going to hit that one, but can we recoup these 2 years of classes? Is that something that we can, it's a cost we paid in terms of tuition. It's also a cost we paid in terms of time, but can we ever recoup that? Can we change that? Or is it gone? In terms of moving forward with life, the only thing that's possibly changed is that, okay, I can become an advertising person in 2 years, or I can become a nurse in 3 years. In other words, don't hang your decision on something you'll never be able to change. You're always moving forward, kind of like our windshield work with our budgeting exercise. Only think about the things you can actually change. So the correct way to think about the decision is not, oh, I don't want to waste my previous 2 years of school. That's the sunk cost fallacy. It's not an effective way to think about decision making. Only think about moving forward. So when it was 2 years ago, it was, oh, I want to be an advertising major and I'm going to have 4 years in front of me to do it, right? That's fine when you were, before you entered college. But now that you've been in college 2 years, now, crisis time in my life, should I stick with advertising? Should I go to nursing? The correct decision is, in 2 years, I could be done with advertising. In 3 years, I could get my nursing. And that's going to help without hanging on to the baggage of the past when it comes to moving forward with your decisions. Okay, good. Any other questions or comments there?
Can she minor in advertising?
Yeah, she might be able to pick up some crumbs here of, these previous classes, and that's why I kind of did the 1 year thing, because, maybe they were general education requirements that's actually needed for nursing too, or who knows, right? Yeah, so she might be able to pick up something. Okay, good. So let's look at Ethan here. Ethan's in his 3rd year of college and has run out of savings to pay for school. However, he is determined to finish his degree and graduate. Tuition for his 4th year will amount to $9,000, not including his living expenses. If he keeps his GPA up this semester, he can maintain his academic scholarship for $3,000 and his federal grant for $2,000. This still leaves $4,000 in tuition plus his living expenses, and he only has 4 months to come up with the money. If Ethan does not want to use student loans, how can he pay for the rest of school in time? We left off with Hannah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're up, Anna. So what else besides, he's got 4,000 left in the till. He's done the grant thing. He's kind of got some of it covered. He's got 4 months. If he doesn't want to use student loans, if he's not kind of using that as the easy out, what suggestions would you have for him? to work more. Yeah, he could go pick up an extra job or something, right? So you could really bust butt depending on what his other things are looking like. So a job might work and help offset some of that. And maybe if he does have to resort to the student loan, you know, a $1,000 student loan sounds better than a $4,000 student loan, right? You can only make up 3. Okay, what else could he do besides a job? I think a job's probably the #1 prospect. Scholarship, so keep beating the bushes to see if there's other things out there. Maybe there's some things. He kind of took his federal grant and he had his academic scholarship that was with the school, but maybe there's some other outside money he can look for. Right. So again, this whole loan business, whether it's credit cards or whether it's student loans, is to not let it be your default safety net as a young person. To think, I want to stay away from that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it if I don't have to. Or if I have to, I want to take the very littlest possible rather than the normal knee-jerk reaction of you guys being up in the academic office, financial aid office, and they say, you qualify for $10,000, Ethan. Oh, good. I can use that extra money to buy a car. How many of you have heard of people doing that type of thing, right? Max out the student loan to buy something else or to make life a little more comfortable or whatever it is. Don't do it. You don't need to. I mean, again, this is the behavior part of the college experience, right? 80% behavior, 20% finance. So you don't have to come up with how much your monthly payments are going to be when you graduate. I'd say most students don't do that financial calculation. But can you hold on to the emotion of, I want to avoid student loans, and it's going to drive me enough to want to find other alternatives to fund my education, or possibly to live a little lower, to bike instead of drive to work, or to find alternatives, bum rides with friends, walk, right? Are you willing to do that? Do you see the benefits of it? That's going to be a personal decision that all of you are going to need to make on your own. All right. Okay, I think that's a good spot to end that one. We're going to get into chapter 5 next. So we've got this chapter is called Family, Friends, and Philanthropy. So we're going to stay on the relationship topic. As I played the first video section, I'm going to come around and pass back your interview practice. But I'm going to actually pass them back to the person you interviewed so they can see your comments. So those of you who were gone and had an excused absence, come and see me after class, and we can set up the interview. Did you guys enjoy it? Should I do it again or not? The interview, those of you who are here, did you like having that interaction just to kind of get a feel, a real easy way to kind of slide into things? So again, if you had an excused absence, what we did is we did mock interviews with the people that were here and went through the rest of the interview, and you guys I'll pair you up with somebody else that was gone if you weren't here to make up that work that was the in-class work. Otherwise, I'll be passing these around. Any questions on that? All right, chapter 5, here we go. Do you agree with Dave's gender stuff there? So discussion question number 1, do you agree with how Dave portrays each gender and how they relate to money? Have you seen the exceptions to the rule? So Anna was last, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hannah, you went already. Raven, you went already. Josh. Oh, I forgot to get Taylor in on the count, but she did talk already. So what do you think? You agree or disagree with the generalities that Dave is throwing out, or have you seen exceptions to what he was saying?
I agree with it.
You generally agree? Okay. And what was your parents like? Did they tend to follow that portrayal?
Pretty much, I think so.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
So your dad's the hunter and your mom's the shopper?
Yeah.
Well, in my family, I am definitely a hunter, almost disgustingly so. So I don't totally agree with Dave's thing, but I'm also pretty darn good at negotiating. As I'll give you all my tips and tricks in the next chapter on next chapter, the chapter after, 7 is the negotiations chapter. I will sit there and I don't know if it's the economist in me or what, but I want the absolute best rock bottom deal. So I will uncover every little corner of the internet as I'm shopping for shoes or fishing equipment or whatever. And so probably to a point where it's a waste of time, which is bad for me to admit as an economist, but I just hunt and hunt and hunt and hunt and hunt, and then hit the negotiations. So, and in my family, my mom, my dad was the shopper spender. My mom was the one who was more conservative and would do it. So definitely exceptions. These are just kind of generalities with the genders. How many people saw exceptions in their household where the mom and dad role was kind of flipped compared to the way Dave portrays it here?
Both mine are both.
What's that?
Both my parents are both a negotiator and not.
So they're in what way?
Like they both love getting the rock bottom deals, like you said. They both go like I don't know, like everything that you was describing. Both my parents did both those things.
Do they do both? Okay. Well, that would be an exception to what he was saying for sure. Yep. Sienna, what you were saying? Yours is more flipped.
Yeah, my dad.
Okay. So he's the one hunting around, wanting the deals, and your mom's ready to go into the kill and be done with it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely, this whole chapter, you're going to see stuff where there's been pretty major studies that look at gender differences and how men and women are different and all of that stuff. So just bear in mind that these are just maybe some averages from some studies and stuff, but each one's going to be a little bit different. But what it means by averages is that if it is average this way and you find the average spouse, then you got to be prepared for what they're like. And it actually doesn't matter if they're the hunter, the shopper, or a mix of both. It's just a matter of acknowledging that these are different styles that people have, and could cause some conflict if you're not able to adapt and figure out a style that works best. Yeah?
I just love what you said about how people do not when they get married always become so.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that point that they don't just disappear into marital bliss. Yes. Definitely not the case. So, all right, any other last comments or questions on that one? All right, we're going to jump into the next section. All right, a little pukey there, but where are you guys on this nerd free spirit thing? So I put a spectrum up here, and it's not a fair characterization for anybody, but I think we can all kind of if we take this and split it right in the middle here, all I'm asking you to do is to say, if you're a little bit more on this side of the scale, then we're just going to have you raise your hand that you're in the nerd spectrum somewhere. And if you're on this side of the scale a little bit, somewhere, then we're going to have you be a free spirit. But I'm going to do a little poll in the class just to kind of see where we're at in the classroom. So with a show of hands, how many nerds? Be proud. How many nerds we got? 1, 2. You guys aren't just being bashful? 2. Okay. And free spirits. 1, 2. You're kind of up here, or this is you're right in the middle, but you're thinking you're just a little bit on the free spirit, or you just didn't seem very proud of it there. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh my gosh, I've never had that. All right, so this was actually a 2, not an 11. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. All right. So, what do you think? I want to go to discussion question number 1 here, or actually number 2. Just go to this thing. So similar to what we did with our personality profile, how do you communicate with the opposite personality? And how can you apply this to this information for relationships outside of your marriage? So really just kind of focus in on the relationship question. How can you apply this to relationships, like your friends or your other people? Question number 2. Should 2 free spirits marry each other? Should 2 free spirits marry each other? Or is it doomed for divorce? Yeah? They can, they're just gonna be broke. Okay. I kind of bring that up. This whole spectrum thing and how it applies to what we're doing here. Who was the one that actually set up the initial budget? Well, the nerd, right, was the one that set up the initial budget. Well, my wife and I are actually both free spirits. So if I was to put us on this spectrum, I would say I'm close to the nerd because I do like numbers and geeking out on math and stuff like that. So there's Russ, and my wife Dana's probably somewhere close to me over here. And so when we do the budgets, I'm the one who prepares the initial budget because I like Excel spreadsheets and doing the numbers and stuff. But we are definitely both on the free spirit side. I've always been a spender, and it's not in my nature to want to be holding back and not enjoying the moment today and having fun today and spending money today. So it's definitely a disciplined effort on my part to do that as well as my wife. So the point is that no matter where you're at on the spectrum, a couple nerds could marry each other, a couple free spirits. That's not really the point to play matchmaker between nerd and free spirit, but you'll kind of figure out what works for you. And the important thing is doing it together so that you're actually sitting down and having those discussions about where the money should go and what the plan should be. Okay, so I want to go to the case study. We got Mario and Aaliyah. So if you want to write Mario, you can just put Mario if you want. You can put Aaliyah if you want. Just so that on your paper we know what you're doing. So Mario just graduated from college with a degree in marketing. He landed a sales job with a starting salary of $45,000 per year. He has one student loan of 8 and is making double payments on it. He also has a fully funded emergency fund. Mario is about to ask his girlfriend Aaliyah to marry him. She has a car payment of $279 every month. She also uses a credit card for purchases, although she does pay off the balance in full each month. Aaliyah has a fairly good job, but no savings. So if they don't talk about money now, predict what their first year of marriage, do you think it's okay for Aaliyah to use purchases as long as she pays off the balance? So do 1 and 2. Do 1 and 2. Number 1, you can just kind of keep short here on what you think, how you think this couple is going to work out here with given their styles so far. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Everybody thumbs up or thumbs down. First year of marriage if they don't talk about money now, right? Now, is that realistic? Do you think some people won't talk about money now until they get married? Do you think some people actually do wait to talk about it? They do, don't they? They're all in love and bliss and everything's great and oh my gosh, it just love will overcome everything. It doesn't matter that you're awful with money and have great money. No, it's not. It's not gonna, it's like Anna was saying earlier, it's not just gonna go poof away. And so I think a lot of people do enter marriage without having that conversation. And that can lead to some big problems. Okay, so where are you guys at with number 2? Is it all right with Aaliyah to do the thing with paying off the balance? How many people said yes, it's all right? Number 2, it's okay, pay off the balance every month? 1, 2, anybody else? How many people said no, that's not a good idea? All right, what are you guys saying no for? Because to me, financially anyway, if you use the credit card company keeps all your purchases in one spot, and then it comes and you have the cash, so then you just pay it off. There's no interest. for that, as long as you paid off within 30 days. That sounds pretty good. So I want to hear from you, know people. What are you thinking? Let's see, Abby.
Well, she doesn't have any savings. And I guess, I don't know what her employment was very much.
Yeah, it says did a decent job, but they don't say exactly.
If she happens to slip up, we would either have to go into his emergency fund or, his money.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Anybody else want to add on? I totally agree with Abby, and that's probably, she brings up probably the most important thing. And the other thing, so basically your emergency fund or your credit card is acting like the emergency fund, which isn't a good idea with first having not any savings. Now, some people might say, well, I've even got savings accounts. So does that overturn Abby's, comments? I'd say no. What were some of the other pitfalls that we had with having credit card availability? Overspending was one thing, so you can overspend pretty easily. You might not be having the categories quite as good as an envelope system might work, right? So there's some, and then just having that card there, even if you don't use it, if something comes up in your life that's beyond your $1,000 emergency fund or whatever, then it's that easy out again that we were talking about. So I think that is something to be aware of, and certainly not recommended with the Dave Ramsey system. So. All right, we'll call it a day there. Turn in your papers up here at the front when you're done. We'll see you. Oh, I did want to just mention, this is not due till Thursday night, so we will have another class meeting. But in case you guys are talking to your parents over the next 2 days, Wednesday is chapter 4 stuff is all due Wednesday night. But Thursday night, we have a little interview with your parents, which is kind of fun. So if you end up having to talk to your parents or something, you want to just kind of get this out of the way. You're going to ask some questions of your parents that you maybe have never asked before, so that's kind of fun. What do they do? Who's the nerd? Who's the free spirit? You guys can kind of explain that concept to them. So that is in Buzz. It's not until Thursday night, but interview a parent.